Hello, my name is Matthew Heinrichs, and this is my third and final response video for CMEN03. Today I'll be talking about the debate in France on the root causes of homegrown terrorism uh, throughout France. After the string of terrorist attacks that happened, especially in France, but also throughout Europe in 2015 and 2016. Two of the top scholars in France for this debate are Gilles Capel and Olivier Roy. They have gone into great detail in their books about what they believe are the reasons for homegrown terrorism, because as we know, a lot of the people who committed these attacks uh, became radicalized within Europe, and then some decided to go to Syria or Iraq to join ISIS, others stayed in Europe, or others went to the Middle East and then came back and perpetrated the attacks. We see all three different kinds of phenomena going on, and France is a really interesting example of this because the rate of uh, native French people going into uh, ISIS or becoming radicalized is higher than a lot of Europe. Um, so Gilles Capel is the first I want to talk about today. His idea is that there are a lot of social, economic, and religious marginalization phenomena going on that have caused many people to be pushed towards Salafism, to be pushed towards a more extreme version of Islam that's a lot less moderate, not necessarily violent. As we know, many Salafists are peaceful and do not promote violence, but it isn't such a far leap sometimes for people, or they can justify their actions better within Salafism. Furthermore, many people who are immigrant Muslims in France live in not great neighborhoods. They live in the banlieue in Paris, or they live in other lower economic uh, neighborhoods within France. So then in those neighborhoods, there's much worse educational opportunities. Many people don't really get those same opportunities that uh, other French people would. So then there's that economic marginalization. People often, there's a debate on whether or not French Muslims are actually French. There have been many laws that have prohibited, say, the veil and other forms of Islamic identity. This also applies to Christians and Jews, but not in the same way. Uh, so, in many ways, Keppel argues that it is society that has pushed these people to radicalize themselves, and that then they would join ISIS or become terrorists. Now, Olivier Roy does not agree with this at all. He says that this is a generational revolt and that it doesn't really have religion to blame or other economic or social factors. That this is simply a generational revolt and that it would happen no matter what. He doesn't see religion being a part of it because many of the people who have become terrorists, who have become radicalized, in the months prior to their radicalization, they weren't very devout Muslims. They might have been Muslims, they might have been brought up Muslims, but they weren't necessarily going to the mosque all the time, or they were partaking in party culture, drinking, and other activities that would make it very difficult to believe that they would be radicalized. A lot of people were actually petty criminals before their radicalization. And so he points out that these people were violent no matter what, and that they just found a way to justify their violence through religion, that they are appropriating the religion for themselves. So I think that both authors have made a lot of really good points here. I think Capel's ideas of social marginalization and economic marginalization are really important when trying to understand why people might be pushed to commit acts of violence. That a lack of opportunity would make people not have the hope or the desire to really try and make something better of their lives, that they have no feasible options for that. But I don't think that you can blame Salafism for these acts of violence as Capel seems to do. I think that Roy makes a good point that um, it isn't the fault of religion that these people were already violent, that they were already criminals before they moved to radical terrorism uh, to express their crimes, that it wasn't the fault of systemic racism or discrimination, but their own violent histories that do this. I think that you can't ignore the details. I think taking these two books together really gives you a full picture of what the problems are in homegrown terrorism, especially in France. I think that France is especially unique in this debate in that there are so many people who have gone and joined ISIS, and that there are these special laws of laïcité that have contributed to the marginalization of French Muslims. Um, but I think it's really hard to say with certainty why certain people are becoming terrorists, and that a lot of social programs really need to be provided by the government to try to avoid this happening anymore. Thank you.